Rivers politics. Magnus Abe reconciles with Wike, returns to APC. Sanwo-Olu spent 1 billion naira to hire helicopters in 1 month, Roads Viva. NLC berates Zamfara over teachers' 8,000 naira salary. Repentant Boko Haram members attack police station, NDLEA, customs checkpoints in Borno. 715 terrorists killed, 465 hostages rescued in April, the DHQ. Kenya floods, death toll surpasses 200 as cyclone approaches. US accuses China, Russia of planning joint invasion of Taiwan. Turkey announces suspension of trade relations with Israel until Gaza ceasefire. Russian troops enter base housing US soldiers in Niger Republic weeks after US troops were ordered to leave. US President Joe Biden finally reacts to anti-Gaza war protesters shutting down American universities, says order must prevail. Today is the 25th of Shawwal 1445 AH, coinciding with the 4th of May 2024. It's a beautiful afternoon from here. In the studio, my name is AMINAT, and of course, I'm being joined by Dr. OLUBUNMI KAZEEM. Good morning. Good afternoon, actually. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Haji Amina, and good afternoon, listeners. It's a pleasure to be here once again.
Great. First things first, the minimum wage to take effect, the new minimum wage to take effect from the 1st of May. That's what the federal government says. But then they announced until you see they're releasing the breakdown of the proposed minimum wage. What's going on? Why?
It's surprising that up till now, around January of this year, the federal government set up a tripartite committee, as a call set, to really negotiate with labor on a new minimum wage. Going by the new minimum wage act, the minimum wage is renewable on a periodic basis between 4 and 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So ordinarily, another minimum wage is due. The last one was approved 2019.
Okay.
So another one is due after 5 years, this April 2024.
Right.
So expectedly, people were looking at the fact that the federal government would have been able to work on a new arrangement before the end of April. At least latest by May 1, would have a new minimum wage in action. But unfortunately, not much progress has been done. In fact, I'm not even sure if at all the committee has really held any meaningful meeting. Going by the fact that it's still doing consultations, across the geopolitical zones. There was a time they came to Lagos, and there was this proposal of probably almost $1 million thereabout by labor and things like that. Now, Labour has actually proposed. Then, NLC proposed one, TUC proposed another. So that was like a kind of, disagreement. That how can the two Labour fronts go to such a negotiation, such a meeting, without having to agree among themselves? So they went back, I think. So this time around, they presented a united front and proposed 615,000 naira minimum wage. And this time around, they said it's not just something we just came about. We're trying to look at the realities of today. Looking at a cost of living for a family, to a mother, a father, and 4 children, like the normal standard that we have used for an average family in Nigeria since the days of former, military president Ibrahim Babangida. So, that threshold of 6 per family. So they're looking at that, looking at the cost of education, the cost of feeding, the cost of transportation, and they even said that they have not even factored in the increments in the electricity tariff that we've just witnessed, that they didn't, because they, as far as they are concerned, that is even illegal. So they have discountenanced that. But then they have factored in the fact that the cost of transportation, going by the removal of fuel subsidy, and also you look at it, the inflation in the market, that what they are able to arrive at, that for an average family without even any savings, that for them to live meaningfully, a living wage, as Labour calls it, 615,000. There have been several reactions to that, proposal, but the federal government has not even agreed on anything, but just said that the new minimum wage, whatever it is agreed to, will take effect from the 1st of May. So there is possibility that arrears could be paid for those people. That's number one. Then number two is that tripartite committee is supposed to actually compose of the federal government, the state government, as well as organized private sector on one hand, negotiating with labor. But then we've not had anything from the organized private sector. And for the governors, we've actually had governors that probably even discounting as the presence of, the tripartite committee. Because you look at it, a state like Edo State just unilaterally announced a wage of 70,000 naira. But we know quite well election is coming in Edo State, so I'm not surprised because I feel like it's more like an election gimmick. And the APC candidate in Edo State has also said that that's a great gift from Governor, Obaseki. So there's someone that really, although as a governor, he has actually even implemented 40,000 minimum wage in his own state. So, but beyond that is the fact that he also had a Cross River announcing 40,000 minimum wage for his own, state workers. And then NLC there is saying that no, that is nothing to write home about. Some are even saying that. Some states are even saying, well, for us, it's not even a case of any new minimum wage. Like in the case of, Ebonyi State, that one just announced a 10,000 additional, amount to the salary of workers. Initially, apart from 30,000 minimum wage, he's giving a wage award of 10,000. This time around, he has added another 10,000 as part of Mayday. So a lot of them are just coming up. Unfortunately, for the private sector, we've not had anything from them because ordinarily it's supposed to be a national minimum wage, where regardless of whether you're working for government or the private sector, that should be the minimum wage that every worker in Nigeria should actually.
So with all this minimum wage story they are giving me, there still is Zamfara State paying the teachers 8,000 naira salary.
That's how ridiculous we can be in this country. I'm trying to imagine that. So those ones are still in this Nigeria. 8,000 naira. The truth of the matter is the 30,000 naira minimum wage that has been in existence since 2019, it's not all states that are implementing it. So, and that's why a lot of people are saying, NLC, TUC, are you guys being realistic? That we have states that have not even implemented 30,000 naira more than 4 or 5 years down the line. You are now proposing 615,000 naira. Are you guys serious? Do you think it's a tea party? Then the calculations that you guys did, the reality is that if you call it a minimum wage, you're saying that it means for whoever that is unable to pay that kind of amount of money should not employ people.
Yes, and so
that would worsen unemployment in the market. Then beyond that is the fact that that's not just even how minimum wage is calculated. It's not just the current market price. You just do a whole jacket thing and you put everything together and just add and subtract. That's not how minimum wages arrived at ordinarily. Although for me, I'm also expecting the fact that in the past they use these the International Labour Organizations or doing definition of poverty to say that an average family at least that is above poverty rate should earn nothing less than so amount of dollar per day. Now if you are saying that probably $2 per day, then you now look at it for an average family, how many dollars per day times the number of days that you have in the month, and you probably convert that $18, convert that to naira. Probably that's one thing you probably even present to the government. But we know quite well that our government is always insincere, and that is a fact that we have to tell ourselves. When it comes to the masses, when it comes to the workers, it is their own salary that they will claim that would actually cause inflation. But when they are awarding some of these crazy monies to themselves, allowances, salaries, and other kinds of benefits, paraphernalia of public offices, when they are awarding it to themselves, those ones will never cause any inflation. How are we really serious? Sincerely. So there is a level of unseriousness on the part of all the parties concerned.
And the masses are left to the fleas. Anyways, let's go to the fuel scarcity. It persists, even though I saw a news saying fuel is being pumped and things will get better. I saw that this morning, but I still see the queues all over, a bit of traffic here and there, packets of traffic around the fuel station. So what exactly is going on?
I think that we have a government that is not alive to its responsibility, and that's my own verdict. In the sense that, see, it is not my duty to provide fuel. It is not my duty to ensure that we have functional refineries. It's not the duty of the masses. It is not the duty of the masses to appoint people that would oversee the petroleum sector. We have a president that we elected, and it's his responsibility to ensure that everything goes normally. Then beyond that is the fact that even if the president cannot be anywhere, and that's why he actually delegates the responsibility by appointing cabinet ministers. So in Nigeria, we actually have 2 ministers. Yes. Petroleum. States, 2 ministers of state for petroleum, 1 for gas and 1 for crude oil. Now you have a minister for state for crude oil, for oil, petroleum, for the oil sector, and yet we don't have fuel. We have an MD of NNPC, yet we don't have fuel. And this has lingered for over a week. Last week we mentioned this. This week again, it's still happening. And yet, NNPC continues to tell us that we have enough supply that can last us for over 1 month. It's just logistics. For my goodness sake, is it my business to actually handle logistics? The truth of the matter is, we got information that a lot of refineries abroad are actually undergoing maintenance work. So a lot of them are not exporting. And that probably accounts for the challenges that we are having.
But we have Dangote refinery.
See, the truth of the matter is, has there been an agreement as to how much Dangote will sell a liter of fuel to marketers? Has there been such an agreement? Is it my responsibility to negotiate with Dangote? You see, a functional government should be proactive. You should not wait until things get bad before you now start acting. That's what I'm trying to drive at. That we actually elected you, you are in office, we are maintaining you with our own tax money. And at the end of the day, this is what we get. This is not efficiency in terms of service. This is not even effectiveness. Not talk of efficiency. So for me, I think that the government really needs to come hard on some of these recalcitrant officers who probably have failed in, that is dereliction of duty.
So ideally, we should have had some
Head
sort
should
of
roll
appraisal by now.
Yes,
The
now.
appraisal should
See,
have
the truth of the
reflected-
matter is we are nearing a year after for this government. But then I expect to see that there should be constant update and not just propaganda and not just false information telling people that don't panic. Why won't people panic when ordinarily I get to the fuel station, I cannot buy fuel? And the reality is we have an NMDPRA that is actually meant to oversee what these fuel stations are actually doing. Because the truth of the matter is, see, we have to tell ourselves this truth. See, Nigerians are actually we are our own enemies. See, a lot of these fueling stations, they have fuel.
Of course.
Because the truth of the matter is, you cannot tell me there is no fuel and black marketers are actually getting fuel. Where are they getting it from? The truth of the matter is, these people are selling at night. But is it my duty to actually go there to check whether or not they have it? So what is the function of NMDPRA to actually go and check if at all these people have fuel and are not dispensing? And probably let there be sanctions for them because they're actually sabotaging the government effort. But the truth of the matter is, we cannot continue to teach government its job. If they know they are not competent, let them resign. And they are competent, let them act. See, Nigerians are not demanding too much from the government. And we are the kind of people that, see, any little that you
Anything
do,
goes for us.
see, the
Anything
truth
goes.
is, we just need you to do
okay
little.
with
We are
most
okay. See, we are okay with little.
Minimal.
So that minimal performance is what we are demanding, and we're still not getting it, for goodness sake.
Right. Let's talk about this Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway and the fact that a lot of property owners have lost out on the demolitions that happened. I mean, there's been a bit of demolitions here and there. First thing, so for me, usually when these things happen, what comes to my mind first and foremost is who allows a building to go up completely done and then it's then pulled down? What happened? Where do we miss it in between? And obviously, there were allocations, and that's how come these property owners took possession and then went ahead to build. What exactly is going on in that space?
Well, for me, I would actually hold both government and some of these so-called businessmen. I'll hold both of them culpable. I'll hold them accountable in the sense that a lot of times people actually don't do their due diligence.
I was going to say that, but
Then beyond that is actually the fact that, see, we also have government that would know that this thing is wrong and would keep quiet. See, the truth of the matter is not as if they kept quiet. But a lot of times it is corruption that's the bane of development in this country. You have a situation where let us probably break this down. Planning is supposed to predate development. What we've always had in Nigeria is a case of development predating planning. You'll have seen development, then you now remember that, this is
There's
not
a road
right.
coming
There's
here.
supposed to be a road
There's
that
a
should pass
drainage
here.
here.
There's supposed to be a drain.
this is
See, it
water
doesn't
channel.
make sense. See, the truth is, we have regulatory agencies in this country, but they are not functional. See, we have probably a building control agency in Lagos. We have the Federal Inland Waterways, and so many of these agencies that are supposed to actually oversee what people are doing. The truth is, someone is claiming that I own this particular area, and we are telling you that this is 250 meters within a shoreline of the shores of a coastline, and that belongs to the federal government. Ordinarily, there should be enough setbacks. But then, because the regulatory agencies are actually folded their hands and allowed a free-for-all. At the end, the government now comes and no, this is wrong. You are not supposed to build up to this extent. So you have to take this out, or we have to take this out. Then it becomes a problem that, oh, this is victimization. And that's when the issue of probably someone is actually, now pandering to ethnic sentiment or religious sentiment and what have you, will now start coming in. But beyond that is this, we need to look at this, that if people actually have valid documents, and that is appropriate approval from government, even if at all we have some buildings that have to actually give way because of public good, then there has to be compensation. But the reality is this: have we always done a proper assessment to ensure that there could probably be no other alternatives that could channel such a development without having to affect businesses? You have this kind of project, and the question is being asked as to whether or not there has been an environmental impact assessment for this particular project. And the answers we got, although the Minister of Works, Senator David Mahi, said that there are approvals, but we actually don't have them presented. But he's saying that there are approvals. Although people were dissatisfied because of the manner in which he answered the question, I don't hear Fune. And that was his reply to the lady from Arise TV that actually asked the question that, please Minister, can you confirm that we have done, the government has the report of the environmental impact assessment for this particular project? Because it seems that we've not heard anything. And the next thing is, I don't hear from I was raised in the village and things like that. People felt that I was actually trying to dodge. But eventually he said there are proper approvals. If you actually need it to be made available, and probably you can even go to the Ministry of Environment to find out if at all there is an environmental impact assessment done for this particular project. But then Nigerians are asking, why the hurry? Then there seems to be a lot of shady things about this particular contract. Because, see, this is the largest contract, single contract that will probably ever be awarded in the history of this country. 15 trillion naira. I've never had such. And the truth of the matter is, when you're having this kind of contract, has there been any approval by the government? Is it in the budget? It's not in the budget. Has there been any approval probably by the Federal Executive Council? It was never tabled before the Federal Executive Council. But beyond that is this: was it even budgeted for? Not there in the budget. Then, was there any competitive bidding process for this kind of project, so that we could have, instead of just saying we have awarded to this particular organization or this particular company, were there bids? How many companies participated in the bids and things like nothing like that happened? And for us to now have approval, instantly you are moving to site, and instantly we are already told that almost even a kilometer has already been constructed. And there are demolitions going on. And it is this demolition that actually raising an eyebrow. For me, I think that, yeah, the project is not a new project, because, see, the truth of the matter is we always heard about this particular project for a long time.
We always knew it was coming.
Yeah, it was coming. But then, how did it come? That's one. Then number two is the fact that, see, for the interest of public good, there are so many sacrifices that have to be made. But people are asking, we also have many internal roads. And that's why, presidential candidate of the Labour Party was saying that there are so many internal roads that have been left unattended to. Are you sure it's not the same fate that befell those roads that also befall them? Because there seems to be, a whole lot of clouds surrounding this particular project and the whole financing and things like that. How did you even arrive at 15 trillion naira in the first instance? Then beyond that is this, that do we now have to actually destroy or affect so many businesses just because of a particular road that we are not even sure of the whole contract process? So, but then the minister said Mr. Obi is trying to incite what's it called, egos against the federal government. Although a lot of people might say that is not true, but for me, I have seen the tirade on Twitter, on X. And the truth of the matter, you would see a whole lot of condemnation coming from the people of the Southeast extraction, especially because of landmark, because of his investment. And I said he's from the Southeast. But the truth of the matter is, we should not limit this to the issue of landmark or a tribal thing. The reality is there are so many. See, let me tell you, there are so many Nigerians, so many even Yorubas that have properties along that particular shoreline that are also affected. In fact, you have the Oniru family itself that are actually the owners of property around that area that are also affected, but they are not crying foul because it's ethnicity. But it's a case of, if you understand that this is for public good and it's a generational project that so many generations will benefit, if eventually the federal government can pull it through, and for the fact that it's actually a public-private arrangement, because at the end of the day, this road will be tolled for a number of years. The high-tech company that are actually handling it is not, a government thing. It's not government that's actually releasing all the funds. The reality is a private. The same set of people that actually built the Atlantic, what's it called, the Eco Atlantic City, are the ones actually behind this particular project. So if it is something that would probably benefit us, there's a need for us to actually probably have some of these sacrifices. The only thing is we ensure that those businesses that have valid documents to support their claim of ownership of these properties should be properly compensated by the government. And I think that we should be forward looking. It's not a case of you say vacate tomorrow and you're coming today. It doesn't make any sense. There should be ample time for them to really evacuate. And you also look at, for the workers that will actually be displaced, what alternatives do we have for them? Right. These are things that we should to consider.
In the course of the week, at least a particular morning, we all were shocked at the revelation that came on board the underbridge dolphin. 250,000 naira rent per annum of the 86 apartments. I call them apartments because they are apartments. They say they're rooms. And obviously, the first thing that came to my mind was I told someone sitting next to me, I said, clearly, the people that inhabited those rooms were workers on the island.
Absolutely.
Who have homes in faraway Akute, Ikorodu, Songot, and the likes of it, who just needs a place to put their head in the course of the week because of the insane levels of transportation costs. And so clearly, only such people. Are you telling me a hawker is one that can afford 250,000 naira per annum?
I doubt that. I doubt.
So it's workers.
What's even the worth of the whole business that they hawk?
Yeah, to afford. So clearly, it is the people that actually are gainfully employed that were inhabiting those places. But then, what do I know? So what do you have for us on that?
First, I think it's a failure on the part of the government that we actually
lack.
How
did it go unnoticed for
so many years? See, the truth of the matter, it's not new, and it's not something that, see, it's not just under the bridge that people inhabit in Lagos. Let me tell you, there are so many markets that people sleep. They don't go home. They live in the market. It's not a case of, oh, we come here, we go in the evening. No, a lot of people sleep in the markets. And that's why when you probably hear of fire disaster, you see so many people that wake up in the middle of the night and start trying to solve it. Is it from their homes they rush down? No, it's not, because people live there. Beyond that is the fact that it is telling the government, it should actually be an eye-opener to the government that, first, if you could have people that are paying 250,000, it means these people can afford a decent living. Something must have actually made them, like you alluded to, that these are workers. The truth of the matter is, ordinarily, we could also come up with
low-cost
housing schemes. Even if it is not even a case of low-cost housing, we don't have to even use all those, big materials. See, there are containerized apartments that government can actually come up with. See, I'll give an example. You go to NTA, there are offices that are inside containers, and they've been there for years, not inside any erected building, but inside containers. But you have ACs, you have so many things that decent, offices and things like apartments carved out of this just for the use of these people. If you can have that, so why can't we even have some of these, apartments that are not permanent structures, but that are makeshift, but they are actually durable, and they can actually still serve the same purpose. All that we even call, see, the truth of the matter is, the citizens don't have businesses with building houses. Ordinarily, if we have a responsible government. See, it's not compulsory. When we say we are building houses, who are we building houses for? That you build a house and say people come and pay 30 million naira. And you call that low-cost housing.
When your own staff, you know how much
you're paying your staff.
Yes.
Is it someone that is earning 30,000 naira minimum wage that would actually be able to buy such homes? See, we are not being serious here. If this will, it means that these people can actually afford to pay rent, or probably even on a monthly basis that you can deduct from their salary, so that at least, because, see, you cannot, cost of living on the island is very high, so they cannot afford that, normal housing. Then where they live is very far. We don't have an efficient transport system that could, bring people, we have this system. That was the original idea behind even this so-called BRT scheme. Where you have people living from far away, and we would have an efficient transport system that brings them to the island, they work, and at the close of work, they go back without having to think of the man hours that have been lost. Looking at the cost of transportation, we could have some of these arrangements that will make life meaningful to the people. But unfortunately, what do we know? They don't have a government that, because let me tell you, these people are even, apart from the fact that they pay that rent. Now, Some people actually erected those places, those things. They are landlords too. Imagine landlords.
Yes, I hear they're
No,
looking for
and
landlords.
unfortunately, yeah, they are only going
30
for.
of them were rounded up and being
See, the truth is actually, you see, Lagos is turning to a jungle if we actually don't take care. Because the reality is, see, there are lords, just like when we talk about tribal lords in some other places. We have lords, gang lords, that control different areas in Lagos, and government knows them because when it comes to elections, so this is person that controls this. I'm going to give this person that money so that we will be allowed to actually come and do campaigns. Does it make any sense? These are the people that we actually worship and we idolize them. But unfortunately, we cannot think of an efficient way of, relating or taking care of those who would actually not cause us problems. So at the end of the day, how then do you want to tell someone that it doesn't pay to actually cause trouble? It is troublemakers that government actually romance with. So at the end of the day, for me, I think that it should be an eye-opener to the government that let us come up with a decent, accommodation. It might not. It doesn't have to even be beyond a room. That would have an efficient water system, efficient sanitation system, and every other thing, including electricity, and let these people pay, something that is very, very minimal that can actually maintain such structures. And at the end of the day, it is not too much for them to actually cover. And by that, you would have now removed this idea of people having to survive by staying in shanties under the bridges or causing nuisance in some other places like that. See, Lagos is full of shanties. Let me tell you, even in VI, there are shanties. It shows quite well that there are some people that work there but cannot afford the cost of living there. So are we thinking of how do we take care of such categories of people?
At the end of the day, they are Lagos residents.
They are Lagos residents. They are Lagosians. And the truth of the matter is, these are the people that actually, some of the schools that you have in such communities, there are communities that are public schools that you have around Ikoyi, VI, and other things like that are actually meant to take care of children of these people. Children of drivers, children of cooks, children of all these maids that work with all these big men and women that have homes in these places. But they cannot send their children to all these big schools that you have around the area. So that's why you have the public school. They're the ones that send their children to the public schools. But then, can government now think of, a decent housing arrangement for this set of people?
Right. I'm interested in this out-of-court settlement that the EFCC agreed with Cubana chief priest, and I'm concerned about in an out-of-court settlement. Why aren't they put through the full arm of the law the same way somebody else in his shoes went through? It's a Naira abuse case. Why is someone getting the jail term and another one out-of-court settlement?
The same way you have thought is the same way I actually found that unfathomable that do we now have different systems of justice for different categories of Nigerians? I really don't get it. But that's on the one hand. On the other hand, a lot of people have been saying that it might be a function of the quality of legal counsel available to the other person that eventually been sent to 6 months in prison. Because he pleaded guilty outrightly.
Yeah.
And
so they could have, clemency.
They could have clemency. That was what I was thinking. If I was even thinking that, if I thought a first-time offender, then again, acknowledging
your time, didn't waste taxpayers' money, having to come back and forth.
And he didn't even try. He pleaded guilty, and I was even expecting probably such a kind of sentence would be more. I think, and that's why a lot of people
there's an underlying.
There's an underlying sentiment. And that's why. How then do you want to convince people that it's not because you are only trying to escape? It's a scapegoating, arrangement. You just wanted to hit at him. You want to get at him, and like, okay, what else can we use to actually deal with this guy? We couldn't pick out anything, and you cannot say cross-dressing is actually an offense in Nigeria because it's really not an offense. But eventually, you now have to use the claim of Naira abuse. And then because quite there are videos of him probably spending at parties and things like that, he decided to use that as and you use him as a scapegoat. Now, the truth of the matter is, I was even expecting that probably that sentence would be committed to probably community service. So that at the end of the whole community would see that he's actually doing this. And that's more impactful than just probably putting him behind bars without anything. I continue to say, every week now, you hear it in the news. Oh, he's not being given preferential treatment. He's not being given preferential. Please, who is asking us?
But I've seen him donating stuff
to the same, custodial center.
Centers,
and you look at it that what exactly are we interested in? And eventually, this guy came out and he was bouncing. I was like, see, can you imagine? And they said, Cubana chief priest and your mates. You think, sincerely, you've really not sent the right message out there, EFCC. As much as I would, agree or probably give kudos to what the EFCC is doing in trying to like curb some of these excesses of, so-called celebrities. But when we are now being selective in the way we apply our judgment, it leaves so much to be desired, I think.
And so this same EFCC is moving against schools charging in dollars. I hope they also do the same, use the same energy for, apartment buildings that also charge in dollars. Because ideally, the legal tender in Nigeria
is the naira.
No other currency should be allowed to be the means of trade.
The truth of the matter is there are so many things that are actually wrong in Nigeria, and that speaks to the fact that our regulatory agencies have actually been culpable in doing their work. They have actually been negligent. They are not up to task, because ordinarily I don't imagine that we have schools, we have businesses that actually operating in Nigeria and will be charging people in dollars. Accommodation. Dollars. See, it's not just even dollars. People are only saying dollars. There are so many other ones like that different currencies and for different businesses where they charge in dollar. Now, if you are even saying that, what then would you say to Nigerian customs that continue to charge people in dollars? I find that to also be ridiculous, because it's part of adding pressure to the naira. So that I have to import something, and then after paying my import in foreign currency, I also have to pay landing fees and whatsoever fees in foreign currency. Doesn't make any sense. Unfortunately, we now keep changing the value of. And that's why we now have, as much as we are trying to say that we have unified the exchange rates, we now have about 3 to 4 exchange rates. Different ones. The custom rate is different from the CBN rate, which is supposed to be the NAFEM rate. We now have the BDC rate. We now have the parallel market rate. So are we not deceiving ourselves? The truth of the matter is there are so many issues that need to be tackled there. And I don't think it's just even about the FCC alone. What are the banks doing that are facilitating the payment of such money? Because I'm not sure that such payments don't actually come with physical dollars to come and pay these schools. Bello probably, I didn't expect that he probably brought that in physical cash. He must have probably facilitated that through the banks or something like that. The payment in dollars. Yeah. Now, but that says school is not only that. At least we heard of the case of the Wigwe University too, at the point that probably was said, no, it's just application is for those that are actually foreign students and things like that. See, you cannot deceive. Let's not deceive ourselves.
When we are foreign students in another country, we don't use our naira to.
We don't use our naira to pay now.
Convert to their currency.
We convert to that. So why can't they convert to naira? So you see all these excuses they give. So what's the NUC doing? What's the Ministry of Education doing? What are the banks doing? What's the CBN doing that is probably now has to take the EFCC? So until we actually get some of these things right, and you will unify some of these policies. So it's not just a case of we have the policy and it's just probably one agency that's trying to implement, while all the agencies of government are actually going against it. See, it just look as if this guy is overdoing himself.
Winking in the dark.
Yeah, seriously.
So Nigeria needs $2 billion to resuscitate that Jalkuta steel. For me personally, I honestly cannot wait for the day when we will say, finally, the Jalkuta Steel Company is functional and, is back alive. Because it has just been an agbano. Excuse my... As long as I remember, it has been collecting and golfing money and nothing to show for it.
The truth of the matter is, for me, I think one of the ministers that deserve to be sacked is the Minister of Solid Minerals. See, the only assignment that minister has, as far as I am concerned, is, he's not even Minister of Solid Minerals, he's Minister of Steel.
Steel, yeah.
The only business he has is actually resuscitating Jalkuta. Yeah. See, I don't even understand why his office is probably even in Abuja. This is a minister that his office should actually be inside the Jalkuta Steel Complex. Yeah. And you are telling me that more than 6 months as a minister, the only thing you can tell us is Nigeria still has, we are still studying, trying to find out what exactly is wrong, and some documents, some agreements that were signed. That's what you use 6 months or more than 9 months to find out. Sincerely, and coincidentally, this is someone that actually from Kogi State.
They've also
the Abubakar we are talking about is actually the son of a former governor of Kogi State, Prince Audu Abubakar. Beyond that is the fact that you are an indigenous of that state. You know about this industrial complex is located in your state, and for 6 months plus, You could not come up with any meaningful thing about Ajaokuta other than to tell us that we need $2 billion to resuscitate it.
That budget he put together, it took him a while to put it together and must have been a lot of work.
So sincerely, the budget has been passed since December, and this is what you are telling us 4 months down the line into the year 2024, that we need $2 billion to settle claims, or is that not what he's trying to say? So that it can come alive. Unfortunately, it's so, if ordinarily we have a performance pact signed by these ministers, it is something that we expect that will generate a whole lot of money. We are talking about economic diversification of our source of revenue. This is an area that we really need to talk about, because we're talking about the fact that every now and then, see, whether you're constructing bridges, build houses, what have you, construction generally, that is not how you don't need steel. You don't need iron rods and the likes like that. And Nigerians spend billions of dollars.
Even our rail tracks, right?
Yeah. See, seriously, because of the quality of the kinds of roads that we are doing, especially some of these concrete roads, you will actually need these, steel rods. And unfortunately, we spend billions of dollars importing every year. In fact, there was a report that was released yesterday about $1 billion is used in importing that every year. Just that alone, $1 billion. Imagine the pressure would have relieved of the naira if Ajaokuta still is running. Imagine how much would have been able to achieve to meet local industry. And more, look at the number of jobs that will have been created if that Ajaokuta Steel Company is functional. Then do you now know, imagine how much would also be able to gain in terms of foreign exchange by the time we start exporting, if that place is functional. But what have we had? Since 1999 that I've come to know about these talks over resources in Ajaokuta. This is an industrial complex that has been in place since 1978, thereabout. So almost 50 years, it still has not come alive. It has not even rolled one bar of steel. It's ridiculous, for goodness sake.
Do you have any idea what Governor Sanwo-Olu spent $1 billion on helicopters for? Why was he hiring in just 1 month?
In just 1 month. I think it's for the Lagos government to actually come out to tell us what is really going on. During the week, the Labour Party governorship candidate in Lagos, Gbadebo Rose-Vival, came up with the fact that he has actually laid his hands on some document that actually details some, illogical, ridiculous expenditure of the Lagos state government. And it shows the profligacy that is actually going on in the state service. That there are so many contracts that are being awarded, at unexplainable values. So many expenditures that you're like, what is going on? An example of that is that, $1 billion, on hiring of helicopters just within a month by the governor. Mr. Governor, I owe your handlers and all the officials of Lagos State. Over to you. See, it's not for me to say anything. I don't want to believe Mr. Rose-Vival. I want to believe my own governor, and I want to believe Lagos State government. So please, can you come out and actually provide us the details and explain what exactly is going on? See, the truth of the matter is, ever since, the president emerged, attention has shifted away from what is going on in Lagos to Abuja, and a lot of people are actually taking their eyes off the ball as regards what is going on in Lagos. Before now, it has always been, it is Tinubu that is holding them down. Now the president doesn't even have their time in Lagos. Now, so all the resources, and mind you, minus what Lagos generates on a monthly basis as IGR. Ever since this government, federal government, removed fuel subsidy, the states are now getting, in terms of federal allocation, almost triple of what they were getting before. So it means, therefore, that they have more than enough to spend. But the question you and I should ask ourselves is, have you seen any remarkable change in the standard of living, whether in Lagos or in any other states like that, as a result of, the more money that is coming down to the state? Have we seen better roads? Are you seeing getting more of electricity? Are you seeing better security because the governors are now spending better on this? Rather, see, let me tell you, what we have actually seen is that every time they go to Abuja for FARC, and immediately that FARC is released, the naira takes a tumble. That is what has been observed. Anytime they finish FARC like this, and these governors get their allocation, then the naira takes the beating. Because at the end of the day, a lot of them will just go straight to the banks, to the BDCs, and they exchange, their allocation for their state to dollars, and that's what they keep personally. And whatever there is left is what they take back to their state and claim that there is not enough money. Imagine a Zamfara paying 8,000 naira to teachers, and the same Zamfara will collect billions of naira from the federal government.
Well, let's cross over to the foreign scene. Kenya floods, death toll surpasses 200 as cyclone approaches. This is a natural disaster for them, and
they've been experiencing torrential rainfall since March, and down to May now, the death toll has actually surpassed, because we have dams overshooting their banks. We've had so many places flooded. In fact, Kenya had to postpone school resumption for this week, for this term, because of the floods and the number of deaths. Yeah, for the safety of the schools, the teachers, and the school children. So now, but then let's come back home to Nigeria.
Right.
Now, we have been praying for rain all this time because of the extensive heat that we have experienced.
No, I'm not among of them, because they are fixing my roads right now. I'm not among of those wanting rain yet. I am among those praying for the rain to be suspended until our roads are completed.
Now, the truth is, even if your roads are completed today, are we sure we have proper drainage channels that could actually accommodate the excess water that is coming from the rains? That is a question that we need to answer ourselves. But beyond that is also the fact that every year we hear that the Lagdo Dam in Cameroon is opened in order to reduce, to release excess water, so that the dam can actually still, continue to still hold some water. It will not, overflow, or it will not actually collapse. Now, have we, between last year, now we had flooding last year again. We had flooding in 2022.
What
do we have plans
to prepare for?
In anticipation of this year's rain, have you started even building additional dams to accommodate excess water? Are we desilting the river Niger and the river Benue so that these rivers can still have enough, space to actually accommodate this excess water? Every now and then, what you get from our state governors is the people should move away from flood-prone areas and move upwards. Upwards to where?
Yeah. To go and sleep on somebody's roof.
To go and sleep under the bridge, and you come and chase them away again? Or what? So, it shows quite well that Yorubas would say the death of a colleague is a signal to you that
warning sign.
It's a warning sign. Are you prepared? Now, it has happened to Kenya. Are we sure it's not going to happen to us in Nigeria?
We're a praying nation. Right. We pray away all our problems. Anyways, the U.S. have accused China and Russia of planning a joint invasion of Taiwan. What do we know of this?
It's the U.S. intelligence agencies are briefing Congress concerning what, so to say, the intelligence they got. Now, whether that is true or not is another thing. And
the same
a lot of times,
they got about Saddam Hussein.
The same way they got far as Afghanistan, WMDs, and all those ones like that. Quite well that a lot of times this could be a false flag operation. And the reality is the military-industrial complex is always after war, and the likes like that. And this is something that actually always been championed by these Western, nations and the likes like that. But beyond that is this. I know quite well that China is studying what is happening in Ukraine, because it's more like a template on probably how it can also deal with Taiwan. And it can always see every now and then it has always been an issue of concern, and that always brings, China and U.S. into conflict. Especially the way U.S. is always, romancing Taiwan, and to a large extent, even to an extent that everything that happens in Taiwan has actually been dictated by the U.S. So it's more like an an outreach of the United States. Taiwan has almost turned to an outreach of the United States, and now the United States is doing everything possible, and that's to probably, poke China by using Taiwan as, thing. But then, I believe that if Taiwan is very, very wise, they should learn from Ukraine. Because unfortunately, Ukraine has allowed itself to be turned into a pawn on the chessboard of the Western nations to try to see how we can actually, tap Russia and see how Russia is going to respond. And eventually, it's the people and the land that eventually suffer it. Because at the end of these guys will continue to sell weapons to you.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, they'll tell you they are assisting, but invariably they're actually testing new weapons, selling weapons to you, giving you loans, giving you some, or they'll tell you it's an aid package and the likes like that. And at the end of the day, the concessions, they continue to get concessions. So you might say that, okay, this particular region, you have to give it to us. This particular resources, you have to actually give it to us, the opportunity, so that after the war, we'll be the ones that will continue to exploit, and the likes like that. Right. There are always terms for it. So, but I only hope that that is not true. I want to believe that it's just probably a false, report. But then, because, see, that could spark a whole lot of things. Ordinarily, you are talking about the whole of the West against Russia in Ukraine. That's the way it is. So, see, except we want to deceive ourselves. It's the West versus Russia, and the battleground is Ukraine.
No.
Now, I can't imagine now that will now open another battleground in Taiwan. And at the end of the day, it now becomes U.S. versus, China. Because at the end of the day, too, now, if care is not taken, we also have a situation where it will now be U.S., Japan, South Korea, because they are allies of the U.S. in that particular region, Southeast, Asia, and especially around that China Sea. And at the end of the day, it's the Taiwan, peninsula that will be the battleground. So at the end of the day, see, we need peace in the world, not war.
There's enough going on.
There's enough to, contend with.
Right. So Turkey announced suspension of trade relations with Israel under the Gaza ceasefire. I just wonder why did it take you so long? But then, I guess, better late than never.
The thing is, a lot of actually people, especially from the Muslim world, are alarmed. Going by the rhetorics of Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the president of Turkey, the way he always sounds and, against the West and Western nations and the likes like that, in defense of Islam and so-called Muslims, that when it came to the issue of Palestine, he had actually been laid back to a large extent. And the truth of the matter is, where a lot of people said, see, the truth is, Turkey cannot afford to miscalculate, because Turkey is actually going through economic problems. The lira has taken a beating for the worse, to the extent that even the current government is not sure of re-election. The snap election that was done, the election that was done, midterm election that was done for Ankara and Istanbul, the ruling party lost. So that the economic issues facing Turkey, they see it as enough, and they would not want to anger the West. So that the economic relations they still probably have with Israel, which is a way of still keeping its relations with the European Union and the United States. They don't want anything that will probably harm that. And that's probably why they decided to, it has taken this long. But then, now that a whole lot of people, that even in the US, people are protesting against this war and things like that, at least that's the little they can do. Because ordinarily, Turkey could actually wield a whole lot of influence as far as that war is concerned. Let me give you just one instance. A whole lot of the fuel that is coming to Israel comes through Turkey, coming from Kazakhstan. It passes through Turkey. It passes through the pipelines in Turkey, gets to the port in Turkey before it finds its way down to the port of Haifa. Now, if ordinarily Turkey decides that I will not allow any oil to be pumped through Turkey, that will be a whole lot of problem for Israel. But then, it did not do that. And it still continued its trade relations. So people are now saying, wait a minute, are you guys serious? Or are you just being hypocritical? But then at the same time, he's looking at the interests of, his own country. That actually comes first, probably. Well, as much as we know, I don't speak for him, and I don't speak for the people of Turkey, because I know the citizens of Turkey are actually quite incensed at probably what the president is doing as far as this war is concerned. But a lot of them are also trying to let us face the reality. It's our economy here. We're actually taking the beating. So for us, let's just try to manage it. We'll continue the rhetoric that we have opposed the war, but then we'll now probably put our foot ground in that place. In terms of probably if there are any aid or assistance that we can give, then we can actually offer that to the Palestinians. So
Right, on a final note, I want us to. I don't know if I'm happy about this. The Russian troops have entered the base that was housing the U.S. soldiers in Niger Republic, and this is just weeks after U.S. troops were ordered to leave the shores of Niger Republic. I don't know if I'm receiving this with a smile. There's a grin on my face. Is that normal? Am I normal?
The thing is, for me, it's that of mixed feelings.
Okay.
Now, currently, you still have some of those U.S. soldiers there. It's not as if they have departed totally. You still have close to about 1,000 soldiers in Niger. They've been told to leave, but they've not left. Seriously, I still try to look at
so
it.
But the Russian troops now have arrived.
Now,
so
the Russian troops have arrived because now Niger has actually is saying that, see, to hell with you guys in the west, I'm moving towards the east. And I want to romance, Russia. The same way it happened in Burkina Faso, and it also happened in Guinea. It's the same way it's also now happening in Niger Republic. Now, you remember that these same people also sent the French troops out. In fact, they sent those ones out totally. We don't have anything to do with French soldiers again. Now, this because of, they're like, okay, let us romance Russia. And probably that will probably guarantee us more security because the years that have been cooperating with us so far, it still has not been able to actually stop the so-called, insurgency attacks as far as Nigeria is concerned. So now that probably by the time we will also bring Russia, that will also make the U.S. a bit jealous and say, you guys you are not totally serious. If I will actually end our cooperation with you guys totally, I will allow the Russians to come in fully. But the U.S. is saying that, well, it's not that the arrival of the Russians is not on the same it's not in the same building, but it's within the same area, and that each of them, they are doing their thing. They don't have anything together, and they are not under threat. That's what Austin, the U.S. Defense Secretary, is telling the people in Congress. But then, what we are saying again too is the fact that one way or the other, for me, and that's the fear. How we are now actually saying we are against neocolonialism. Now we are leaving one, master, and we are opening up the door to another master. And we have Africans have their destiny in their own hands without having to rely on these people. What are we saying in terms of probably developing the capacity development for our own soldiers? What are we talking about in terms of probably developing even our own defense capacities without having to rely on these foreigners? It's something that we need to talk about. Then beyond that is the fact that how well are African leaders meeting the governance expectations of their people? Rather than just threatening that, if you can make life more meaningful to your citizens, there will be a whole lot of reduction in terms of the pressure for security, on insecurity and other things like that. But the reality is, because they themselves are not actually good people, the government, see, it's not as if we are getting the best. How well has the military that has taken charge of Niger since last year now, how well have they turned around the economy of that place? So that's something that we need to look at until that happens. And it will not be a case of leaving one master to serve another master. Then that is when we can actually say probably, it's a good decision. But until that happens,
fingers crossed. All right, that's how far we can go on the show today. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you same time next week for another bill package of the news review. It's a goodbye from here. Thank you so much, Doctor.
All right. See you next week, God willing. Goodbye.